Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and really get into the core ideas from sometimes pretty complex source material.
Mm.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in a very specific, and I'd say often intense, framework for relationships. We're looking at excerpts from David Deida's 1997 book, The Way of the Superior Man.
Right. And this book, it's pitched as a guide for what Deida calls the newly evolving man.
Okay.
Someone who's, striving to be purposeful, confident, directed, but also sensitive and spiritually alive. Our goal today is really just to lay out the essential framework presented in the source material for you.
Okay, so where do we start? What's the absolute core concept here?
It really all hinges on sexual polarity. That's the central thesis.
Without worry.
Yeah. Deida argues that, real passion, deep connection, it flows between masculine and feminine poles.
Poles, like magnets.
Sort of, yeah. But here's the crucial distinction he makes. This polarity, it's completely separate from biological gender. It's based on what he calls a fundamental sexual essence.
Sexual essence.
Yeah.
Okay, so that determines what really drives you.
Exactly. What motivates you at your deepest level. And he breaks it down into three main types.
All right, what are they?
First, there's the masculine essence. He estimates this is about, maybe 80% of men. For this type, the absolute non-negotiable priority is mission, purpose, and freedom.
Mission first.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's the second type?
That's the feminine essence. Here, the core priority shifts. It's all about the flow of love in intimacy, connection, relationship.
Okay, masculine and feminine essences. And you said three types.
Right. The third is the balanced essence, maybe 10% of people, he figures. These individuals, they aren't really driven by that strong sexual polarity dynamic. They prefer more of a, let's say, loving friendship. The intense push-pull isn't really their thing.
I see. So for this deep dive, we're focusing squarely on the first scenario.
Exactly. The framework given for the man with that masculine essence and his partner who has a feminine essence.
Our mission, then, is to unpack the rules, the discipline he's told to follow, about purpose, integrity, handling emotions, all based on this polarity idea.
Precisely. And it really starts with his own internal world, his integrity.
Okay, let's get into that foundational part. A man's way, integrity and mission. The first big piece of advice seems challenging. Stop hoping for a completion of anything in life.
Yeah, that's a big one. Deida basically says this hope, this belief that one day it'll all be done, that's the fundamental masculine mistake.
The idea that, one day I'll have enough money or my partner will finally stop complaining or then I can finally relax and do what I really want.
Right. He argues that moment it never arrives. Life is the challenge, the creative act, constantly. It's not about getting to somewhere else.
And there's a very direct action tied to this, isn't there? For you, the listener.
Don't wait. Spend at least 1 hour every single day doing that thing you're putting off until you feel secure or your obligations lessen. Give your unique gift now.
That no excuses approach. It leads straight into the next point, which, let's be honest, is probably the most controversial one.
You mean your purpose must come before your relationship?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a direct path to being, a neglectful partner, doesn't it?
Right.
How does the source justify putting work or mission above connection?
It frames it entirely differently, not as selfishness, but as integrity. The argument is, when a man with a masculine core prioritizes the relationship over his deepest purpose, his true north, he actually weakens himself. He becomes less present, less directed. And in doing that, he deserves the universe, as Deida puts it, and ultimately cheats his woman of the authentic, strong man she's drawn to. It actually kills the polarity.
Wow. Okay, that's a complete flip from a lot of modern relationship advice.
Yeah.
So if purpose is number one, how does he avoid just checking out of the relationship? What's the practical side?
It comes down to presence, quality over quantity. The source suggests, for instance, that 30 minutes of truly undivided attention where he's fully there, heart open, engaged, is far more valuable, far more nourishing for the feminine partner than, say, 3 hours of him being physically present but mentally checked out, distracted, his energy clearly elsewhere. That weak presence doesn't build trust or connection. The undivided presence does. It's about integrity again.
Integrity seems to be the watchword, which brings us to the next point about knowing your limits, your edge. Know your real edge and don't fake it.
It's okay, even honorable, he says, to admit your fear, your limitations. What's dishonorable is to lie about them, or worse, to just stop short of where your actual challenge lies.
So fear isn't something to avoid.
Quite the opposite. Fear becomes your guide, your friend even, because it shows you exactly where your edge is, where your growth potential lies.
And the advice is you have to constantly lean just beyond that edge.
That sounds exhausting. It probably is, in a way, but what's the alternative? Stagnation. If you play it too safe, stay way inside your comfort zone, you lose your depth, your presence, your partner feels it.
And if you push too hard,
You burn out, become ineffective, so it's this constant calibration, finding that edge and taking one small step beyond it, authentically facing the fear, but choosing to move forward anyway. That consistent practice, that's what builds trustworthiness in a man, according to Deida.
Okay, so what happens if he doesn't do this? If he chooses comfort, compromises his purpose, maybe uses the relationship as an excuse?
Well, the source is pretty blunt. The ultimate result is a loss of depth, presence, and trust. Deida argues a man must be willing to change everything, job, location, even lesser relationships, if they stand in the way of his deepest truth.
Change everything. That's extreme.
It is. But the idea is, if he compromises that core purpose and blames his family or relationship, his woman will sense it. She'll feel his lack of direction, his diminished presence, and that core sexual polarity. It just fades. He needs to live out each purpose fully, even the lesser ones, until they feel empty, and then let them go cleanly. No hedging.
This idea of purpose driving everything, it seems to lead naturally into the next big challenge. Dealing with the feminine energy itself, which, from that masculine purpose-first view, can seem unpredictable, maybe even chaotic.
Right, which is why the source makes this very strong point. Women are not liars.
Okay, unpack that.
Yeah.
Because obviously people do lie sometimes.
Sure, but he means something specific here in the context of polarity. The masculine mind often prioritizes facts, consistency, verbal agreements like a contract.
Right.
The feminine essence, Deida argues, prioritizes the flow of emotion, shifting moods, the feeling of the moment. Her words aren't meant as a binding legal document. They're more like poetry or the weather or the ocean, an expression of her current state.
So let's take an example. She says on Tuesday, "I absolutely love your new job. It's perfect." And then on Friday, she says, "I hate that job. It's sucking the life out of you. You should quit."
The masculine reaction might be,
"But you said you loved it. You told me to take it."
right.
Right. That kind of response, focused on the contradiction in words,
Yeah.
Deida says that misses the point entirely. Her change of heart reflects a change in her feeling, her emotional current. Arguing about the factual inconsistency doesn't address the underlying feeling. The masculine role, he suggests, is to first establish love, presence, clarity, connect with the feeling before getting bogged down in the literal content.
Okay, that makes sense. Connecting with the feeling, not just the words. This seems related to the next really interesting concept, the content-free complaint.
Ah, yes. This is maybe one of the most practical takeaways for anyone listening who's in this kind of dynamic. The idea is that often when a woman complains about the messy garage, not enough money, you watching too much TV, whatever it is.
Yeah. The complaint itself, the literal subject matter, is rarely the actual issue. It's more like a warning bell, an alarm.
An alarm indicating what?
Indicating that she is sensing, on some level, a lack in her man's core masculine qualities. A perceived lack of clarity, or purpose, or integrity, or maybe his wisdom, his presence.
So she's testing him.
Yes. Often unconsciously, the source claims. She's testing him because she needs to feel his unshakable strength, his centeredness. She needs to know deep down that he can handle her moods, her chaos, the world's chaos, and still remain rooted in his love and purpose.
Okay, but here's a potential pitfall.
Yeah.
How does a man avoid just dismissing everything she says as, "Oh, she's just testing me," and ignoring potentially valid concerns?
That's a crucial point. The source is actually very clear on this. The test, the feeling behind it, is always real and important. Her upset is a genuine signal. But the content of the complaint is often secondary.
So it's not about dismissing her.
Not at all. It's about using her complaint, her test, as feedback, as a mirror. It's an indicator that he needs to look at himself. Is he shrinking from his purpose? Is he not fully present? Has he failed to bring his awareness and love fully into a situation? Her complaint points him back to his own need for greater integrity or clarity. It's not a deflection, it's a diagnostic tool for him.
That reframes it significantly. It leads into what Deida calls the masculine gift in the relationship.
Which is clarity and direction. And this leads to another piece of directive advice. Don't force the feminine to make decisions about the overall direction, especially when they're in that intimate, polarized space.
Why not? Isn't shared decision-making good?
In a friendship or partnership based on balanced essences, absolutely. But in this specific polarized dynamic, Deida argues her deepest desire in intimacy is actually to relax out of that directional mode, to surrender and trust his clarity and direction.
So constantly asking, what do you want to do? Or where should we go?
Exactly. Saying, do whatever you want is, in this context, the statement of a friend, not a polarized lover. It forces her to step into her own masculine, directional energy to make things happen. Which then, according to the theory, diminishes her feminine radiance, her relaxed openness. She has to put on her executive hat in the intimacy, which dampens the polarity.
So the man provides the direction, the structure. What's the corresponding way he supports her energy, her radiance?
Through praise. This is another key asymmetry. The masculine grows through challenge, right? Leaning beyond the edge.
Right.
The feminine, Deida says, grows and blossoms through praise, genuine appreciation. If you want a particular feminine quality in your partner to flourish her radiance, her playfulness, her passion for something, you need to actively notice and praise it when you see it.
So instead of telling her she needs to exercise more,
you praise how energetic and sexy she looks after her workout. Praise is the sunlight and water for the feminine essence, allowing it to bloom. Challenge often causes it to withdraw or armor up.
Okay, let's shift into the final segment, which gets pretty intense. It's about the direct link between that masculine purpose and sexual energy. First point, your attraction to the feminine is inevitable. Don't fight it.
Right. The man with a strong masculine core is naturally going to be drawn to feminine energy in all its forms. Not just women, but maybe the beauty of nature, art, music, even the quick hit of pleasure from food or drink. It's all attractive energy.
And the instruction isn't suppression.
Definitely not. Suppression just deadens him. The instruction is to feel that energy, that desire fully, but then to convert lust into gifts.
Convert it. How does that work practically?
Okay, so when that powerful surge of attraction hits, could be sexual desire, could be inspiration from beauty, the idea is not to just let it leak out into mental fantasy or immediate, perhaps depleting gratification.
Instead,
you consciously hold that energy. You circulate it through your body, often using specific breath pattern and focused intention, and you channel that raw force, that energy, into fuel for your purpose.
so it becomes inspiration, creative for.
Exactly. Fuel for your work, your service, your art. The energy of desire becomes a kind of propellant, a slingshot, as Deida calls it, moving you towards fulfilling your purpose in the world, rather than just being a distraction or a drain.
This ability to handle intense energy seems crucial, especially given the next point about what the feminine partner tests in him, which leads to this provocative idea. She wants the killer in you.
Yeah, that term killer needs careful handling. It's obviously not about literal violence.
Right.
It refers to the archetypal warrior aspect within the man, the part that is utterly fearless, deeply conscious, and willing to face death, not necessarily physical death, but the death of ego, the death of comfort zones, emotional death, spiritual death.
So in the relationship context, what does that mean she wants him to kill?
She wants him to face her darkness, her deepest fears, her anger, her emotional closures, her tension. And not flinch, not withdraw, not collapse. She needs to feel that he can meet her most intense, painful states with unwavering love and presence. She's testing if he is, essentially, uncollapsible.
She needs to know that if she unleashes her worst emotional storm, he won't be blown away.
Precisely. That he'll stand firm, rooted in his love and his purpose. Because his ability to face her internal chaos signals his ability to face the chaos of the world and remain true to his path. It builds profound trust.
Which links directly to the physical practices around sexual energy. Deida connects ejaculation directly to trust, warning that easy, habitual ejaculation actually erodes trust.
That's a challenging connection for many people to make. How can something purely physiological impact trust?
Yeah, wow.
The source argues that when a man releases his sexual energy easily and frequently, almost automatically, his partner senses, perhaps subconsciously, that he's easily depleted. Not just by her, but by life, by challenges. It suggests a lack of containment, a lack of mastery over his own vital force.
So it creates a subtle lack of faith in his resilience, his staying power.
Exactly. Which leads to the goal of practices sometimes called sexual yoga or tantra. Learning to convert ejaculation, moving beyond the purely depletive genital orgasm towards something more. Towards a non-depletive, whole-body, rejuvenative experience. An orgasm that, as Deida describes it, explodes up the spine and into the brain, circulating energy rather than just releasing it downwards and outwards.
Okay, that sounds advanced. For the listener wanting a basic idea of the mechanics, How is that conversion supposedly achieved?
Well, there are two main shifts involved based on the source. First, it requires breaking the common habit of focusing inward during sex, focusing purely on your own sensations or mental fantasies,
Which is different.
from directing your attention and energy outward into your partner, feeling them, connecting with them. This breaks the pattern often learned through masturbation.
Okay, shift the focus outward. What's the second part?
The physical technique.
Mm.
It involves conscious breathing, typically visualizing drawing energy down the front of the body on the inhale and then on the exhale, consciously pushing or guiding the energy up the spine. This is often combined with muscular control, specifically upward contractions of the pelvic floor muscles, like Kegels.
So using breath and muscle to literally redirect the building sexual energy away from the point of no return for ejaculation, and instead circulating it upward through the body.
Right. It's about transforming the experience from a brief release to a sustained energetic flow and expansion, becoming a conduit for energy, not just a container that empties quickly.
This all points towards a very clear, if demanding, set of responsibilities.
It does. The final synthesis really highlights a fundamental asymmetry in this model.
Which is?
The man, the masculine pole, is held primarily responsible for the direction, the structure, and the growth of the intimacy, setting the course.
And the woman, the feminine pole.
She is primarily responsible for the energy, the vitality, the life force within that structure. The pleasure, the flow, the radiance, the light.
And crucially, because the man sets the direction.
He must have ways to recharge his own sense of purpose and clarity. He can't lead from empty. This often requires solitude and challenge.
Time away. Maybe discipline practices, accountability with other trusted men.
Exactly. Things that refill his masculine core, sharpen his focus. Austerity, challenges, time in nature, focused work, brotherhood. He needs to do this so he can return to the relationship full, present, and clear in his direction. That clarity is what allows his feminine partner to relax, trust, and shine in her own essence.
So his discipline isn't just for him, it's actually what creates the container for the relationship dynamic itself to thrive, according to this model.
That's the idea. His clarity enables her radiance.
We've covered a lot of ground here, a really intense specific framework. The absolute primacy of purpose for the masculine, seeing feminine communication often as a test of that purpose, the constant need for integrity, right down to managing sexual energy.
It's a demanding path. And perhaps the most provocative and maybe unsettling takeaway from the source the thought we can leave you with is this.
Go on.
Deida asserts that the woman's purpose, in a way, is to constantly test her man, relentlessly, always probing, seeking his deepest truth, his fullest, most magnificent expression.
So the test? It never actually ends.